Welcome to the War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com/Zoom.
6 what? Recording in progress. Thank you. Okay, you're out now? Okay, there's no new news. No.
Same old stuff.
Well, it's always interesting when you see the things, the 9/11 related stuff that makes the headlines, how often they try to piggyback on the 9/11 theme, really for no reason at all. It's just because it's become a catchphrase, and I guess it draws attention when they put it in a headline.
Yep.
And they like to connect dots where there are none. But yeah, it goes to show that it's still part of the narrative and that they milk it for all it's worth whenever they can, and it's in their interest, right?
Yep.
I had some news on, I don't know if this is the time or not. You want to?
Oh, this is a perfect time because Al, you're the news right now. Boston is the news.
Well, that's true. I was going to say, I don't know how many people here listen to A&E, their website, but Ted Walter and Andy Steele was interviewing him. And unfortunately, the what is it called? American Society of
ASD?
Engineering
Yeah.
magazine had turned down their review of the Bazant arguments, and
Right.
But they're continuing. They're objecting, and then they're going to go forward again. But it's sort of like, everybody was really excited about it, and it's just the same old story. You get the door slammed in your face. But those guys are serious. I mean, I love listening to them because there's no speculation when it comes to Ted Walter. I mean, it gets pretty tedious listening to all the detail, but they are laying the groundwork very well, in my opinion. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they're going at it in such a rational, logical, scientific way, and even at that, it appears that it's not enough. It's not. That's not what's going to do it. And
Cognitive dissonance and willful ignorance rule.
well, not when it comes to NIST and those groups. I mean, that's not. That's not cognitive dissonance. That's them purposely putting a stick in the wheel to make sure that none of this information sees the light of day.
Well, the problem is that people believe them and have become so entrenched in this belief that they're unwilling to look at anything. The whole thing about cognitive dissonance, it's just really simple, isn't it?
I don't think they're unwilling to look. I think they know exactly. They know that AE has a point and that they have nothing on them, so they just.
You're talking about NIST. I'm not talking about NIST. I'm talking about the people.
Oh, people, yeah, obviously, yeah. Yeah, but again, when it comes to, I think there's two big fat layers when it comes to 9/11 truth. One of them is, what do people know? And do they have the information? Do they know that it's being questioned from a scientific perspective? And then the second one is, do they care? That's the problem. I think the problem is not so much anymore the cognitive dissonance. I think a lot of people, I hear so many people say, oh yeah, 9/11, of course. We have a new accountant at work, and we kind of like talked about what we did in our off time. And, I mentioned that I was very involved with 9/11 truth. And she goes, oh, this is like an older lady, like maybe she's 60. And she goes, I'm going to tell you right now who did 9/11. It was the Israelis, and it came completely out of nowhere. And she's, your average conventional older Lebanese lady. And that was the first thing she said. And
well, I'll bet that some people of Israeli descent had something to do with it.
Well, but regardless, what I'm saying is people are very much in tune with the fact that we were lied to about 9/11, but they just shrug their shoulders. They're just like, oh, well, shit happens. Politicians lie. Wars
Well,
happen.
I had a good
My fire chief appears to be pretty resistant, and I think that he's probably one of the prime examples of willful ignorance and uh, cognitive dissonance. I approached him at the town meeting. I had approached him 4 years ago and handed him Chris Joy's letter. There was the potential for having a conversation. I finally approached him after mailing him, emailing him, calling him a number of times, maybe 5 or 6 times in all over the past 4 years. I finally saw him in town meeting and approached him. And he said, I'll meet with you, Mr. Fine. And then when I called him again, he said, no, I don't think I want to do that. I don't subscribe to the websites that you do. I think that that was one of the ways that he put it. I don't subscribe to whatever it is you believe. And if that isn't cognitive dissonance and willful ignorance, I don't know what is.
No, absolutely. And you know what I think? I think that like many things, the higher up you go, the more people are in those, for lack of a better term, upper levels of jobs, management, occupations, whatever, peer groups, the more pushback there is. Most people that are on board and easily open to alternative explanations are, the blue collar people, for lack of a better term, like the common folk. As soon as somebody has a title or a university degree or whatever, it's like inversely proportionate to the open-mindedness that they have regarding anything other than what we're being told, in the media and by politicians. So.
Yep.
I had a funny example. My wife was talking to this friend of hers, and she was asking her, well, what are you going to do for Memorial Day? And what is Al doing? And she said, oh, he's getting ready for this convention for 9/11. And she asked my wife, do you really believe that? And my wife said, yeah, she believed the buildings came down, but there were other things to think about, her whole attitude. But anyway, the funny part was this woman said, well, I couldn't get up in the morning if I thought our government had anything to do with it. And
Wow.
it was such a classic, back to ground, to square one when you hear people talk like that. I just lose all interest. I have no way of responding.
But you know what? But that is so critical, because if that's where people are coming from, then we have to meet them where they are.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
if it's so overwhelming, I never experienced that. That whole cognitive dissonance thing, I just never went there. Like to me, it was automatic and instant. But to a lot of people, that's, I keep hearing it, that people would, Fran Short, she covers that extensively, and why people are in denial about 9/11, that it would shake up their world, and they wouldn't, like you said, wouldn't be able to get up in the morning. So, what do you do with that? How do you break that down?
I wish I knew.
Evidence doesn't work.
Well,
Evidence
does not
doesn't work.
You're right. Evidence, honestly, you cannot, because the problem is they're coming from fear, right? And you cannot reason with fear. This is the whole, and yes, the evidence is important. It's important in court. It's important for the facts, for all of those things.
Yep.
But we cannot rationally approach something when people are emotionally resistant. And I think that's where we keep running against brick walls.
Especially when the evidence implicates people at the highest levels of world government, the industrial military complex. This is where the whole issue of public safety comes in, because what happens when that confidence is shattered?
Well,
Yeah.
right. And I don't have the answer to that, but we have to keep this in mind when we go up. I mean, we've been doing this, some of us longer than others, some of them have been doing this for 20 years. Others have been doing this for 10 or
22,
5.
22 almost for me.
Well, I mean, that's amazing. I wish I could say that. I'm embarrassed to say that I did not wake up right away, but
I'll
but
tell you a
whatever.
story someday.
Well,
Okay.
even Richard Gage didn't wake up right away.
Yeah, right.
I remember his story when he was in his car when he was thinking about or listening to a podcast. I can't remember which
Yeah,
podcast
Guns
it
and
was.
Butter.
Yes, yes. And he just had to pull over in his car and he started sobbing,
You're right. Right.
So that was the situation where it shook his world. And how
Right.
did he deal with it? How did he deal with it? He got involved. You could roll up like a cocoon when your world is shaken, or you can do something about it.
Right.
And
So that's
Iraq veterans against the war, their world was shaken when they went to war, thinking that they were fighting the people who invaded, who attacked our country, and found out the truth. And it shook their world. And I'm thinking of Ethan. Oh God, what was his name from Collateral Damage? Ethan McCord.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went through a year and a half of pain medication, addiction to drugs and alcohol in his depression, and finally connected with Iraq veterans against the war and got involved and got off of all his meds, got cleaned up, and it turned his life around, actually getting involved, doing something about what shook his world.
right. Yeah, because otherwise you're just stuck in paralysis and apathy with no sense of control. So the answer is doing something and anything at all. But very, very few people feel compelled to do anything. It's often that syndrome of let somebody else do it. And
Right.
many people just
Yep.
don't know what to do. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, I say do anything, whatever, we all have different tools as long as you're doing something.
Yep.
But it would be powerful if we really were more united in terms of a movement that people could latch onto, and with a very specific sense of direction, which really
That implies a movement is having
yeah, no, right,
a common direction.
right.
Well,
And
that's
AE
why I think that what we're doing in Boston is so powerful. Because we're dealing with the fear of sudden building collapse,
right.
and
Well,
what to do about it.
It's gonna be really interesting
It's a
to see what
brilliant,
kind of
brilliant
response
approach.
we're gonna get. Because those firemen, they, as Lorenzo found out, are probably the least likely people to swallow that. And I'm just hoping it goes well. I'm fearful, frankly. But,
I recently had I
Not
recently
lot
had a
of money.
conversation with a local fireman through Facebook, and he said he would, after our conversation, which really had more to do with electric vehicles being incorporated as public safety vehicles and the whole feeling about that. But that was how we met. That's how we started the conversation. But on this little chat, I said, here's something that's probably going to alienate you and frighten you away, scare you away. I won't approach you with this again. And I shared my particular interest, which is 9/11 synthesis, with him, which is, in my opinion, very much evidentiary based in especially in these 2 documents here that I keep on publishing or putting behind me. So I'm looking forward to the possibility of having a conversation with him. And he's a low level. He's a
Right.
he's a firefighter.
Yeah, you have a better chance there.
It was a good conversation. He seemed to be fairly open-minded and said he would look at it. So that's where I have to leave it.
Right. It just seems that we really need to do something big, you know?
The
Uh,
firefighters convention in Ottawa, Sandra, that's the firefighters convention. I think I posted it on your timeline. I shared it with Susan. I shared it with a number of people on this call. Al, I believe, is aware of it. There is a firefighters convention. Yeah, look up Firefighters Convention Canada.
Okay.
That is the firefighters. This is not the Fire Prevention Association. That's
Interesting.
firefighters.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe after Boston, we see how that goes and, do a reevaluation of after how it goes to see
You're going to learn a
what,
lot in this. Yeah.
to be critical of ourselves
Yeah.
as to what we did well and what we could
Right.
have done better.
Yep.
We can do it again. Do it
Do it
again.
better. Do it bigger. Do it with the firefighters. Absolutely. These are the
Yeah.
people that,
Yeah.
like Sandra says, go running into burning buildings, and that's the way it feels when you're approaching one of them. Believe me.
Right.
It's like fucking
When is
weird.
the one in Ottawa? Do you know? Okay.
It you'd have to look it up. I don't have the date,
I'll look
but
it up.
but it's far enough away that it's not going to conflict with any of this upcoming stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll check it out and see when it is.
Well, I mean, I think getting to the heart of 9/11 now is I mean, in my mind, again, I keep going back to the lawyers committee and just how important that is to support it. And then what A&E is doing with the engineering community. This is where it's going right to the meat and potatoes of getting these guys to wake up. And I mean, as I say, I think every bit of effort that we put forward should be directed towards that. But anyway, I'm just anxious to see some progress, obviously, like everyone. End of story.
Well,
Here, here.
yeah.
So anyway, any more action related items that people have done since we last spoke or have in mind for upcoming events? Going around the
Al,
room. Hello?
yeah, Al, hey, I just wonder if you got any, alternative media covering any of your stuff you going on out there. I know we want a bigger movement, and seems like the only way to do that is to advertise, right? Like some kind of where people get to see what's going on.
Yes.
That's kind of a problem because this is a fire
Right.
convention, not a 9/11 related thing. So it's got to be the other way around for this.
Yeah.
People have to approach this.
Right. You can't really make it public under the 9/11 banner.
I understand that. I'm just saying the alternative media is the only way any kind of advertisements can
Well,
get.
maybe after the fact, maybe after the fact, if you've got something in stories to tell, you put it on record,
Yeah, if I get arrested at this convention, it could become newsworthy.
that would make a great story, get
Yeah,
arrested.
really.
Guys, okay, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. It's 5:20. Jean's not here. I'm not religious. That is to say, I don't subscribe to one particular religion. I do believe that there is a higher universal power that I like to call universal spirit. And so bear with me as I try to honor Jean, doing this as inadequately as I probably will. So just 1 minute for truth and justice, to the universal spirit, to please be with us, see all of us, support us in all our efforts, because we're all trying to do the right thing. We're all doing this for peace and for love of humanity and for our hearts that are with the victims' families, everybody who suffered any kind of consequence of 9/11. And we just really care for a better world. This is what we're trying to do. So anybody who's part of this, if you could, put your strength around us and help guide us through it, we would be deeply appreciative. Amen.
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 So the floor is to anybody who wants to. This is just going to be really a conversation, and maybe, anything that you feel that you want to take deeper, take to another level in terms of how you really think we can make an impact. The 20th anniversary last year, we did a couple of big things. We had that plain banner with a message. We had two plain banners. We had the one in New York and the one in Boston. And, it was a big thing for us. It took funds to raise and we had to organize it. And we know that a lot of people saw them. Did it have long-term impact? No, it's not enough. But I think we have to start thinking about along those lines in terms of doing bigger things that don't cost a lot of money, that grab the attention. We have, honestly, it's such a cliche, but thinking outside the box, really. Because
in addition to that, Sandra, I think it's important, even if we don't get a huge response, that people know we're still around. And I think, over the years, we've made it obvious that, this is a serious group that is dedicated. And
We're not going away.
I'm sorry?
We're not going away.
We're not going away is right. Yeah, no, that for me is important, because I would feel terrible if we just didn't do anything, particularly on the day of. And, I'm hoping that the banner project can be done again this year. I don't know whether people are tapped out or not, but I certainly look forward to beating the drum on that one. So, but the Papa will be on our website if I get the okay from those guys. In other words, I'm going to take a lot of pictures, try to get some conversations in there. And so if you go to boston911truth.org, you'll be able to see the booth and what everybody, maybe we get some reactions. So I'm looking forward to that.
what are you guys, like you, Susan, Lawrence, like you're going to be at the convention, right? You're just going to pretend to be average Joes, just interested in what's going on, or like, are you going to play the good cop, bad cop game of, being the person who shows up with all these questions and questioning what they're talking about and pretending to get convinced by them to draw other people in, or what's the plan?
I'm going to just be going as I'm dressed today, walking around, answering anyone's questions if they're interested in what I'm wearing, and maybe going over to the booth occasionally and asking some questions, maybe making a comment or two.
But would
But
you
I'm
wear
not going to be associated with this group. I'm not a member of Boston 9/11 by any means. These guys are a bunch of conspiracy theorists. And I just deal with them.
But then you can't wear the shirt that you're wearing.
Oh, this is not conspiracy. This is like evidence.
No, I know, but to some people, it's.
Thanks, Mike. I'm sorry that I'm the clown. I'm the jester. Okay. So.
No, that was so funny. Like the guy was talking about, making something newsworthy, and you said, like, under your breath, you said, well, I guess if I get arrested at this thing, that'll be newsworthy. and I had just caught that, and I thought that was so fucking funny. So that was great. No, that's.
I'm not going to be doing anything that, nothing overtly that would get me arrested. Let me tell you that. But no, thank you. It was.
Lorenzo, I would talk to Richard Gage and Eric about, what they want us to do and not do.
I have
don't
nothing to do with this group, Al. I've divorced myself.
Well, you're on our website, so I don't know.
Well,
how
you can take me off. You can take me off.
Well, I don't know. I'm just asking as a favor.
I got it. You asked before and I said no.
Well, I think you're gonna hurt it more than anything, but.
Well, I think it's not going to hurt it. So that's
Oh.
my opinion.
He's not gonna be near the booth, or he's just gonna be walking around. He's not gonna associate with the booth.
I have nothing to do with you guys. You're a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to answer Sandra's question, we will be there to help set up before the convention, the Boston 9/11 Truth Group. But during the exhibit, we will not be involved. It will be Eric Lawyer, Richard Gage, and Raul Angula.
Mhm.
Right, Angula. They're going to be the only ones behind the booth.
Okay.
Okay. So the rest of us, we're free to walk around if we register to walk around.
Mhm.
And that registration deadline is May 30th for free. It's $95 to walk around the exhibit hall after May 30th.
Okay.
So we're free to do what we want as individuals. It's strongly discouraged that the Boston 9/11 members associate themselves with the booth in any kind of public way.
I don't know you guys. I mean, I've never seen you before.
Well, I mean, could you approach other booths depending on what they're representing and
Oh,
try to strike up a
absolutely.
conversation with them?
Yeah, I'm going to just walk up to them, ask them questions about what they're up to, and not say a thing other than.
Which, Lawrence, if Boston 9/11 was not organizing a booth, this is something you would have done anyway, right?
I had this plan before the whole thing. I mean, after Al mentioned it, and we found out about how to get passes. I said,
Right.
whether Richard and anybody gets involved, I'm going to this. And this
Right,
is how-
okay, fair enough, as an individual. Morgan's had his hand up. I don't know if you can hear us, Morgan?
I can.
Yes.
What about publicizing this either before, at, or after? Are there any live feeds? Is there any way to promote this on social media, et cetera?
We're having a meeting on Tuesday. Richard, Eric, Raul, myself, Sue. And that's one of the questions that we need to discuss at the
Yeah.
meeting. 'Cause I don't know what they would advise us to do. They are totally in the lead on this, and all we're there for is gophers, to follow through with helping them out. So even though it's our money, we've agreed to play the silent card. So, but yeah, very much so. I'd love to get, the Papa group on social media. I mean, regardless. So I think
It
Right.
should probably be after the fact because we don't want to draw attention to this.
right.
Right. But even after the fact, it would have to be handled delicately because of future projects
Right.
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
Papa will be involved in.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing any recording of the event, sort of a passive photographer or video camera?
Yeah, anybody with a video camera is welcome to do that. I'll probably do it to a certain degree. I got to free up some space on my iPhone or get a new one though.
Yeah, at least a phone.
Yeah,
And Al said he was going to record too.
okay.
Richard knows how all this goes down because he's done a lot of them. And that, I mean, he should know, how his other conventions went and how they handled it as
Right.
far as recording, so.
Well,
Yeah.
pictures would be great. Video is a bit tricky because you can't be recording 8 hours for 3 days just to get that, 1 minute clip of anything
Right.
significant happening right at that moment. So
Yep.
I'm not quite sure how that would go down, but yeah, pictures definitely. Kale, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm with Mike on that. That's a good idea because if you watch how they do those funny videos, like a guy in a leaf outfit, and then he jump scares people, and there's always a camera guy or girl way off in the distance, part of the joke or the gag, for fun. But like if you had hired somebody that is, well, not hired, but or asked anyone to just walk around with a camera like they're on their own, and then they hear a conversation going on, and and then they get involved and listen. Like if that's just constantly live and that feed is given to, or that link at the time, it's not going to expose anything.
Right.
They have
Okay.
no idea who's associated with who, and this person is just kind of like, oh, I was there in that moment, and then wow, look at this conversation. I mean, that's how those kinds of jokes are successful, is because you're getting a natural reaction of the people, and then the people watching it are feeling that natural reaction, and
Right.
you know what I mean? Like that would be awesome. Some kind of person walking around that is discreet and just kind of like neutral.
Right.
Right.
So it's half planned and it's half
Yeah.
authentic and the moment, right?
Kind of go, I'm gonna engage in about a minute or two over here, so kind of so they could be cued somehow. A lot of them have a little earpiece thing in there, very coordinated, but that's a good idea to like have it recorded somehow and not be associated.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has to be.
great.
Okay, there's an issue here. Photography or video production of exhibitors, exhibit spaces, and products displays therein without verbal authorization, which is, from the exhibitor, strictly prohibited. So there
Wow.
would have to be some sort of, a permission if anyone does that.
Jeez.
Is that each exhibit or the
Yeah,
whole?
yeah, that's for each exhibitor. You
Oh.
can't just walk up to somebody's exhibit and photograph it or video it without permission.
Good catch.
Without the exhibitor's permission or without the convention's permission?
Without the exhibitor's permission.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just wanted to clarify that because it is an issue and I noticed it
Okay.
when I checked out
Fair
the,
enough. Okay. Morgan, you wanted to add something else?
Oh yeah, just a little extra to what I said. Is there well, yeah. Once you guys, Al and Lorenzo, find whatever avenue there is for the rest of us in 9/11 Truthland to support, is there a list or Richard or Boston, or are you sending out? Would you send that information out to email?
that would be addressed to Al and Susan. I'm not
Yeah.
part of this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I think that's what they have to decide in terms of, which way to go.
Right. Well, once they decide if there is something that we can do, can they send it out on an email list, or what would
Yeah.
happen there?
Yeah, I can use the WarRoom link. It has not the link, but the mailing list, which is 125 people on it. At least that would be a quick way to reach a lot of people. There's the 9/11 Truth Movement page that Gene and I admin. We can put stuff up there and reach a lot of people there. And if there's really something very specific that can be asked of people, I mean, maybe we can resort to the tap list. And
Yeah,
send out
I'd always love to try to send anything like that out there. TAP seems to have a whole new front to itself. So I don't even know if they would authorize it in time. But I'm always willing to do that.
Can you define new front?
I can't. All I can say is that the president and vice president of TAP have been completely changed. Bill and Dwayne Dietz are no longer serving. And I am only waiting with bated breath to see what new direction TAP is going to go in and whether it's something I support.
Right, okay. Okay, well, I mean, look, TAP has not been on the map a whole lot with a lot of things. So if this is an initiative, if TAP can get involved with helping this initiative, if it makes sense to do that, then, you know, they should be happy to have something to communicate.
Absolutely.
Because, right, I mean, these last couple of years, there hasn't been a lot to share from a TAP perspective, so.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons which I believe that TAP should extend itself as it's supposed to be a grassroots supportive organization to
Right.
anything that's awesome. And we have Boston and Richard and Eric Lawyer and many people that are a big time 9/11 truth movement. So I can't see how us supporting it would be unimportant, but TAP
Right.
wants to make sure that whoever they support is going to support them in the future and go through a big process versus just instantaneous, grassroots action like this group.
Morgan, didn't you say that they wanted to use us as in the same way as access to a mailing list? I mean, I thought that's what our conversation had been about.
Yeah, yes, sir. TAP is, if you don't know, TAP is originally the 9/11 TAP, 9/11 Truth Action Project, but TAP has since changed into the Truth Action Project with issues included such as COVID, propaganda, psyops, and a bunch of others, election fraud, that sort of stuff. So and I've already written this to TAP. If TAP is going to ask that, if TAP supports them, they will support TAP in the future. And I said, well, obviously this has got to be, if you're getting support from Boston or any other 9/11 Truth organization, you can't ask them to support something you have in the COVID range. So it has to be 9/11 for 9/11. I've asked them about that, haven't received a response. I probably should, but as far as it goes, yeah, it's 1 for 1. You help us this much with an email to the database or that sort of thing. We help you. And I think TAP is really looking to sort of make sure that they get the support from the groups that they support. As far as,
I don't know.
Yeah, as far as that goes, my real vision of TAP is we are there for anyone that, we would have to justify it with certain criteria, but as long as that's, supported, we would be there for anybody to use.
That's somehow asked backwards. That whole "I'll wash your hand if you wash mine," or what is that the expression? I'll scratch your
Quid
back.
pro quo. Quid
Scratch
pro
your back, right?
quo. You're right.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It sounds political.
TAP is supposed to be there to support the rest of the 9/11 Truth and other issues instead of trying to be something itself. I think TAP should just simply be there to put boots on the troops and people in the street and support it.
Yeah.
Workshop.
Okay. Yeah, totally in agreement with you. Mikey, you wanted to add something?
I might just be being negative, but I really feel like there's way too much like alphabet soup as far as the movement goes. Like there's like 100 different websites, whether they're not being maintained thoroughly or anymore, or just the numerous websites for some people believing this and some people believing that. And like the whole thing is, I'm not one to preach unity by any means, but I think in this movement that it's been going on for 20 years, I think that is critical, because that's why it might even be going on 20 years. You know what I mean?
Who named this a movement? Who named this fracas a movement in any way? I mean, what the heck?
I'm
Well-
sorry, I understand. Is that a question or?
I think you- I think
I
he's
don't
being
believe that it's ever
sarcastic.
been going in one direction or a unified direction. I believe that it's been fractured since it was created.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that, I mean,
Um,
what I'm getting at is the numerous websites and nobody really being on the same page. We, you know, I mean, we kind of are on the same page, but in terms of like, then some people start spouting off about the Pentagon and like that just doesn't, I understand it, I get it, it's cool, but we just don't need to go there, you know?
I do.
Right. Right. You know,
I mean,
I think.
you can, but let's do it after we get to number 7 and get that in the news, you know?
Right. Well, the argument that's always like when I say what you say, you know, which is, can we just agree that we were lied to about 9/11, which is the thing that I feel that we should all be able to get behind. It's you know, then the pushback that comes against me is that, well, how can we agree on that when we disagree on how it happened or on the details of it? And, you know, again, you know, it's everybody has their angle, and sometimes we don't agree on things. If we really had the movement's best interests at heart, then that should be enough. And none of us have the answers. That's the whole thing. You know, no matter what the thing is, there's, you know, on many issues, there's 2 opposing views, and they cannot both
At
be
least.
right. They cannot both be right. One of them at least has to be wrong, and that doesn't mean that the other one's right either necessarily.
Right, that's also correct.
Whatever happens, one thing happened, and we cannot be so arrogant. The arrogance in this movement is what's really killing us, because everybody is so convinced of what they stand for, and they, no matter how open-minded they say they are, at the end of the day, I have seen very few conversations of people who really tried to even understand where the other side was coming from. Never mind agree with it, just even understand. And so we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because we just keep letting ourselves get divided over these things. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's arrogant to think that you have all the answers. It's just.
And it's by design.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, is
Yeah,
it though?
because
No,
it
you know
is, because there was so much cover up. So that,
that,
because
yes.
of the cover, I think that's one area we can all agree on,
Yes.
no matter what position you take on 9/11. I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that there was indeed a cover up.
Yes. And that's by
because
design.
there was a cover up, that leads us all fighting with one another on what we believe the truth was.
I know, but nobody owns that truth. And if there's not
Nobody
some kind
does,
of,
correct.
if there's not some kind of humility and some kind of acceptance of, I could be wrong on this, no matter how sure I feel, I could be wrong.
It's not
And
just a cover-up.
that's the reason I always approach, when I talk about 9/11, I always approach people with, I have questions.
Right.
And this is impacting us all.
Right.
Whether you realize it or not, it's impacting us all. I think we should all have questions.
Absolutely. And if we could just leave it at that, that would be amazing. But
If there
and when you
were-
say that the cover-ups by design,
Yep.
yes, in a way, but I will tell you that human nature being what it is, we do it to ourselves to divide. So whether there are agents or trolls or moles or infiltrators or whatever it is, we wouldn't, even if there were none, we would be doing this to ourselves, because human nature is that we tend to divide, and egos get in the way and they take things badly, and therefore they won't support that person, and I'm aligning myself with you, and this whole alliance thing where you want to be on the
A
page
whole
of that
tribal
person.
nature of humanity.
It's you know what, there's so much drama and so much, and I will say this, drama, there's a lot of drama, and it's not the chicks.
No, no, it's not.
I'll just say this, not that there's a lot of us, but yeah, the chicks I know are fucking sane. So yeah, there's a lot of drama for nothing, and everybody reacts emotionally. Of course, nobody owns it, because who the hell wants to own being emotional? But it's all emotional. Nobody has any real actual, nobody's able to take the emotion out of it. And
There is kind of a use for drama sometimes, because it gets my adrenaline pumped, and that's probably why I'm most animated today. The bullshit has come down in the past couple of weeks with this email chain that I've been trying very hard to get off.
yeah, you can't. That's the problem with emails. Yeah. Well, I guess
So-
Ed wants to weigh in on that, because, okay, Ed, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Oh, that just something came up when somebody mentioned something about being open-minded. And I think we have to be very careful not to be so open-minded that our brains fall out. And I think that's a lot of what's happening, is that a lot of the things that we talk about, a lot of things we discuss, we present, and some things are just fucking true, and
How do
nobody
you know?
wants to.
How do you know?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you know what's true? It sounds like bullshit to me, man.
Okay, come on, Lawrence, not
It depends on
necessary.
what, it depends.
People
it
that come
depends on-
across saying they know what's true is, we were just talking about that earlier. This is like,
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but you don't have to put it that way.
well, it's
Yeah,
bullshit.
well, it depends on what you're talking about. I'm not
Well, when
speaking
you're telling the
specifically
truth
about
or-
something specifically.
Whether
There
you
are
know
some
what the truth
things.
is, whatever that
Well,
means.
Well, let
if
Ed finish, Lawrence.
I go outside and it's 73 degrees and the thermometer is not broken or anything, then it's 73 degrees. That's not too difficult to understand. There's certain things that you can measure, certain things that you can evaluate, and it will come out to be true, because you can use a scientific method, repeat it, and it'll come out true again. So those are the things I'm talking about. Now,
Okay.
I wasn't speaking about anything specific. I was just speaking generally there, but there are certain things with respect to 9/11 that is true. And there are certain things that's bullshit.
That we can totally agree on. There are certain things that are true.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about. But what happens is the things that we end up presenting that, in my view, should be counted as true, many people just cannot accept, because it appears to be validating the official narrative, and the official narrative must be discarded at all costs. And
That's not the way I approach it.
well, that's how it's been approached, because no matter what you present, no matter how valid the evidence is, it seems that some people want to just explain it away. And that's where the contention comes from. So where the emotion comes from is when we actually start to present something that's, fact-based evidence. You can actually sit there and present it and evaluate the evidence with logic, common sense, and reason. It needs to be for some reason it gets explained away. And the emotion then comes out of that because we can't understand why people are doing that. And it's like, no matter what we do,
And yet,
no matter
Ed, and yet, when we have very valid questions, they get dismissed, and they get waved off, and like they're nothing. And so that's where the emotional response comes in. It's the digging in the heels in terms of a valid question that someone else might have.
well, let me give you an example.
One
Let me give you
thing,
an example.
including, yeah, Ed,
me-
and I'll tell you what, I always tip my hat to LCFOR
Okay, but
911.org.
JB, hold on. We're not talking about the LC right now. Please let Ed finish.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of that. I know like the last Saturday when we were talking about in the WarRoom, Adam brought up he made a statement, and the statement was, there's no way, it's impossible that a passport could have survived the explosion. All right, that was a factually untrue statement. There are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of IDs, pieces of people's personal effects, driver's licenses, credit cards, all kinds of paper, all kinds of fragile materials survived those all four crashes. So that was a factually incorrect statement. I was trying to stop him right then and there. That's why I got interrupted that's why I interrupted him when he was making that statement, because I could not allow that factual statement to continue through his thought process without being checked, because it was factually not true. And
Okay.
it was, and that's that, but so that becomes like, well, it's a question. It's a valid question, but it's not a valid question. It's just not true. That's like, so there's a lot of things like that popping up throughout our
Right.
throughout our
But there's
group.
not, okay, I'm not saying every question is 100% valid. And I'm, but okay. And I want to get to everybody else who raised their hands, but
Sure.
I just wanted to make one and maybe two comments. And one of them is that, there maybe not you, I don't know where you stand on it, but there are quite a few in the group that deny, the free fall or say that World Trade Center 7 did not necessarily come down due to controlled demolition, which, if you want to talk about simple facts that are easy to grasp, I mean, if that's not even on the table, then I don't know what the fuck is. I mean, this is where it starts. I mean, it's the absolute basic, most easy to grasp concept. And yet there are people who will deny that or argue that or play the, oh, I don't know card because I'm not an engineer. So, which is totally disingenuous. But
then a valid question to that would be, there's a valid question to that. Why aren't there 1.7 million engineers signing up for A&E? Why aren't there 1.7 million engineers signing up saying, hey, screaming from the mountaintops?
Oh, but that's an easy question to answer. First of all, because many of them are completely and totally unaware. And those who are aware are exactly what we're saying at the beginning of this conversation. I don't know if you were here, that the higher up you go in the ranks, the more there is that cognitive dissonance of this has nothing to do with brains or anything like that. This is just an emotional disconnect of this could not have happened. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to align myself with it. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. That's why there's not a million engineers on this petition. That's the very simple answer to your question.
But is that speculation or is that quantifiable fact?
That's knowing how humans work and tick.
Yeah, I'd like to make a quick comment regarding the events on 101 and the way they were reported.
Okay, Lawrence, you got 30 seconds to do it because Ray's got his hand up and Al and Kale, and they've been trying to talk for a really long time.
Okay, and it just has to do with everything that is not evidence is hearsay and conjecture and speculation. That's clearly all I have to say.
All right, fair enough. Ray, go ahead.
Yes. I'll turn on everything. I was waiting, listening. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Ray.
Truthers, and we're all here for one thing, and that's the truth. And I think that's also that we know somewhere we were lied to. I want to talk about maybe it's better. I have a video I want to show. It's 1 minute 40 seconds, and if we can just watch it, I think it's very.
Oh, is this the part where I have to give you authorization because I'm not sure I know how to do that?
No. I uploaded it in the chat. You can just click on it.
I know, but I don't know how to share that.
You can just click on
It's
it.
there.
Oh, it opens. But
It's easy to give permission to share screen. We can do that instantly
Whatever works.
for you, Sandra, if you choose.
Yeah. Tell me how. Hold on a second. That's not it.
Did you go down to share screen?
Oh, if I share it, you mean?
you can
No,
click on it.
no, you can give
it-
permission. I'm not sure how to do it, but it should be very, very easy. I'm just not dealing with a
that's for me to share.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to give Ray the permission to share.
When you go to share screen, as moderator, you should see others can share.
Oh. One participant can share at a time, advanced sharing options.
One participant at a time would be good.
That should work.
But that's what it's defaulting to.
That should be okay. So you should be able to share a screen then.
Okay, so then go ahead,
But
Ray.
you
if
got
you
a
can.
check mark there. There you go.
No.
We have,
Ray, are you going ahead and doing it?
What do I have to do?
you have to open the window that you want to share. And
Okay,
then click
okay.
share screen.
Yep.
Okay, then I put it in that picture.
I thought you just did it. Oh, you have to get you have to get whatever you want to share up.
Yeah, I
And then
think so.
select it off your
Open
desktop.
the window for what you want to share, and then go to share screen and it'll show
Yeah,
you the
I want
window
to
See
just
if I
share
can
one
do
more.
it.
and click on the window you want to share.
It's a video, right?
Yeah, it's a video. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to share a running video screen.
Yeah, but I
Click
don't
the
want to share
green
my whole
share
desktop.
screen button
Yeah,
at the bottom middle of your screen.
Yeah, but then I share my whole screen.
Maybe
and
somebody else
I
could
only-
click on the
I only
video
want
and
to
share it
share
that knows how to do that.
No, Ray, if you open it up and then you do share screen, it's going to ask you specifically to choose the one thing you want to share. It's not going to share your whole desktop. Then you just
Yeah,
have
but
to
that-
click on.
Yeah, it's desktop or whiteboard or phone or
Whiteboard.
whiteboard. I put it on the whiteboard.
Yes.
It doesn't do it.
You're going to share the link in chat, and somebody else that knows how to do this could share it for you.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. That's why it's already.
I
in
don't
the-
see it in chat.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's there.
It's there.
It's not my chat over here.
Okay,
Sorry.
well,
Oh well.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to
I
how to
don't
make
see
this
it in the chat
happen.
either.
Ray, did you? Oh, okay. So you click the bottom central share screen, which is green.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
click that. You should have a box that comes up with a bunch of different
Yeah.
rectangles. So
It's I can name them: desktop, whiteboard, photo, iPhone.
right. So you
iPhone.
should, if you have your media selected, you should see it in one of those rectangles.
If now how do I select the media I want to share?
So you don't need to. All you need to do is
Okay, I'll put on share, but then you get my whole desktop.
No. So what you need to do is, I'm not sure what computer you're using, but if you go to a different,
Okay, I'm one further.
do you have the ability to go to different screens? Can your computer support this screen and also an internet screen?
Can you get multiple windows open on your screen?
Yeah, multiple windows. I mean, I'm a Mac user, so I don't know
So am
exactly.
I. Yeah.
Do you have it pulled up, Ray? Do you have it pulled up? What you want to show?
I'll put it up. Wait.
If there's anybody else who
I
can
don't
just
know.
grab it from the chat and share it from.
I don't see it in the chat.
I don't see it in the chat either.
It's,
It's not in the chat.
well, is it a tanker carrying 5600 something? No, it is in the chat.
Not in my chat over here, and I've closed and opened my chat 2 or 3 times looking for it.
Okay, so the last 2 comments are from Kale and the one right before that is from Ray.
Yes.
4.
Ray
Oh,
might
that's
have
probably
gone
why.
just for you.
Okay, yeah, I can do this.
You can do it?
I can do it too. I've got it right now.
Okay,
Okay. So,
Okay,
I
go
don't know,
for it, Kale.
Morgan, I guess.
here we go.
So I'm playing it.
It's 5,600 gallons of jet A fuel burning, and the tanker collided with a Jeep. And this is the aftermath of the accident. And according to the news reports, the flames burned for hours.
Yep. That would be a persistent.
And you see the grass is burned,
Yeah.
and then you see a close up from the Jeep.
And what's the point you're trying to make, Ray?
That we're looking at jet A fuel, which is used for passenger planes to propel them with their jet engines, and that this is something that the NIST report said that the jet fuel was consumed in 3 minutes. And then we're looking at visuals of a tanker carrying 5,600 gallons of jet fuel burning for hours.
So what kind of a point are you trying to make, Ray? I'm kind of
There's
curious
an
where this is going.
inconsistency in how jet fuel burned on 9/11 and how jet
You're
fuel
saying it should have
burned.
lasted a lot longer.
Yes.
It takes, according to the news item that was presented, that presented this video, they said it burned for hours. I did not see the whole video for hours, but that's what they mentioned. And we can go back to we can skip out of the movie, I think. Morgan?
share.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's better. But it's about understanding what jet fuel is. Jet fuel is a liquid. It's a liquid that does not burn. It's the gaseous fumes from the liquid that eventually burn.
Yeah.
And vaporization of jet fuel is necessary for jet engines to have propulsion because of the expansion of the gases.
Okay, so how is it?
But it's getting into that we are talking about 4 events taken on the day wherein jet fuel was a major item.
Allegedly a major item.
That jets were used and jet fuel were used is beyond. You know, it was used, and
Well,
I'm not going to argue. I don't want to argue anybody. I'm just going to bring a point that jet fuel is very important on 9/11.
I totally concur. Now I have some comments to make as soon as you're done talking, Ray.
Okay, again, Lawrence, is that what you wanted to say, Ray?
I wanted to say something more, but when people talk in my I cannot talk anymore. It's what I want to bring a point onto all of you to listen to and that you realize that how jet fuel burns. And that's the point I want to make. It's a burning of the liquid, the burning of the gases which come off of the liquid. The liquid itself does not burn. It's the gas.
I totally agree.
No, I'm wait.
I said I agree.
Thank you. You agree.
You should mute yourself until afterwards, Lorenzo, please.
May I?
Let Ray finish. Thank you.
It's a burning. It's called a liquid, a fumable liquid. It's combustible liquid, but it's not an explosive. And we are believed to what took place on 9/11 were and that are 4 massive explosive events. Explosive, and I would underline the word explosive. And then you have a tanker in a field burning. And that's not an explosive. It's a burning of jet fuel. And having those 2, you have real life tankers colliding with the Jeep and they burn for hours. And then you have 9/11 where it happens in what NIST says 3 minutes.
Whoever's snoring
It's
on purpose, cut it out.
the phenomena, what jet fuel is and how it works and how it behaves on 9/11 was very different to what it actually how it actually behaves.
Right.
Because the 93 was carrying the same amount of fuel the tanker was carrying, the same amount, and it burned. The firefighters from Shanksville arrived in that field, and they say there were only brush fires, and there was not a lot of burning happening when they came. Very small fires they had to put out, and they were there within 15 minutes after what took place there. And if you look around the crater, you do not see any the burning of the grass. You see about the tanker, and the grass was spilled. The fuel was spilled onto the grass. And the grass caught fire. But if you look at Shanksville, it's very clear that there's a crater, but the burning of the grass is not there. So there's some inconsistencies with jet fuel.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to point out with just looking at jet fuel, understanding that it's a flammable liquid, that it's not an explosive, makes a whole different approach
Yeah,
to
I think
the
you've made
factual.
that point many times over, Ray.
And that's why I'm gonna make it every 100 times over.
Fine. So
Because
point made.
it's about looking at the tanker, understanding that it's the same amount of jet fuel which was used on flight 93, and that there's a totally different outcome of how jet fuel behaves.
Okay, Ray, duly noted. I speak for everybody when I say.
Don't speak for everybody. Never do that.
I vote with
very dangerous.
Sandra.
I think I have a good sense of it.
Well, maybe we should take a vote, Sandra.
No, let's not. I want to move on to Al because he's had his hand up forever.
Hold on. Yeah, sorry, little off topic, but as a group, can we agree on A&E and the lawyers committee that we support them, or is this something that we don't even agree on? And building 7.
Well, I think most of us agree on that, but you'll always have those who don't think that that's the priority, and it doesn't. I mean, yeah, most of us agree.
I mean, we need to agree on something, or this isn't even a truth group. It's like a troll group.
Well,
when you speak about it, what specifically are you referring to? Like everything about it, or some of it, or part of it, or
Yeah,
you're talking about like well, I mean, like you're talking about like when you say it's so general, it's like, do we support the lawyers committee? It's like, well, do you support the idea? Do you support the lawsuit?
What
the
they're doing,
the evidence?
the lawsuit, yeah, and
yeah,
that's
I support it. Yeah, I support it, but I don't think it's gonna. I honestly don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I hope it does, because I think the petition for redress is a very big question. But I hope it does in a big sense, because I hope that there's some finality there, and that's what I would love to see.
We all hope that. And
it's an uphill battle, and we need support to do so.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing, and the lawyers committee, even if it does end up doing what it should be doing, we're talking about years. This is not going to happen overnight. So we can't just sit by and say, oh, the lawyers committee's got this, so let me not do anything, right?
Well, that's why I bring up A&E and what they're doing with the engineering community. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
Again, so I'd like to know more specifics, just the generalities of it is, there's always something in there that's going to be questionable, but generally.
Okay, but
speaking,
does it have to be 100%, Ed? I mean, can we just
but I just don't know what somebody means when they say, do we agree with A&E? There's been a lot of things about A&E I didn't agree with.
Right.
But there's some things I do. So it's They're big topics, you know. It's not
Yeah.
like something you just grab in one little.
And it's not
thing.
black and white, I agree.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
No, it doesn't have to be all or nothing at all.
And finally, building 7, do we all agree that it came down by explosives?
I hope so.
Well, I know a lot of people can't. Well, I don't know.
Really?
No, I don't know.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, that to me is incredible. That you
Well,
can't
I
agree on
mean,
that.
in a controlled demolition, you hear boom, 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 and then you
Which
hear
you
it fall.
did. Yeah,
You didn't hear that in building 7.
really?
You don't hear that in building 7.
I mean, I thought, who were the firefighters who talked about
I
explosives?
got it. Yeah.
And the firefighters
Ed
also
is,
talked
Ed is
about how,
right. Ed
and the
is correct. Ed is correct on that point.
and the firefighters also, there were firefighters on the ground saying, you know, hours before, keep an eye on that building, it's going to come down.
Well, I mean,
Oh, no.
my
Hold on one
whole,
second. I got work calling me real quick. Hold on, let me take care.
go ahead. Go ahead, Susan, I'm done.
All right, well,
I mean,
No, that's,
Susan, if you want to weigh in quickly, but then I'd like to go to Kale.
no, go ahead to Kale.
All right, go ahead, Kale.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer back to this group is far from a troll group, and it's only threatening to those because keeping an open mind in this battle is vital. Once you start demanding somebody to look at your way and is the way in this fight, they're questionable.
Yep.
If this last comment just got me, it's on video hearing explosions prior inside of building 7. What are they?
Yes.
What is he talking about?
Yes, it is.
There is explosions a part of that. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but once you start demanding people to look at your way, even if it's illegal bullshit from the government or their bullshit agencies, FBI, whatever, or NIST or whatever, once you start demanding to see it your way, that's it. That's where you've decided to divide
Yeah,
the group.
you've lost the battle.
Any group.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We're all collective movement. I don't care if that word is a trigger word for some. That this is grassroots from the families themselves questioning the commission
Yes.
and NIST when it first came out. And they're not experts. That was their family that died. And the government was leaving out all the information, a lot of information that was needed in the original trial and investigation. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for lies, just straight up lies. So
Yeah.
from our government.
And Kale, can I just say that I really appreciate the way that you never, ever, ever get sucked into these discussions about evidence, that you always keep the focus on action, and that you're always talking about what you guys are doing, you and your family. No matter what you do from one week to the next, all you're doing is action. And, you know, I
It's
wish we
sad.
had 100 of you and wish we had 1,000 of you. And there's some people who are just all about the action and will not get sidetracked. So,
Well, we're trying to raise a couple more that will be affecting others positively. And, you know, that's our little pyramid scheme, if you want to call it. But our children will not fall into these traps with these people that are trying to divide us all. Doesn't matter if it's about the virus or about 9/11 or JFK. I don't care. Oklahoma bombing, you pick it. Nobody knows the exact truth. Once the government crosses that line and goes tyrannical on us, we know what we need to do, and dividing is not it.
I agree.
And anyone that says, I know 100% this is how it went, no, and you better listen to me or that's it. No, they're the troll. They're the troll.
I'm with you. I'm with
I
you.
agree.
I'll go to
Me too.
Lawrence. And then I'd really like to go to Mike Zarzano as quickly as possible too, because he's been.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make
trying
it
to
very
tackle.
short. I'll make it very short, Senator. I am Yeah, why I keep coming to this call, there are a couple of people that I feel I can talk with. I'm all about the evidence. I love what you guys are doing as far as activism, getting out and doing stuff, but I'm all about the investigation of what is implied as evidence, what has been brought forth and suggested that this is evidence. Photographs, um, witness testimony from the day of the event from the site, and we're talking about select witness testimony that kind of does not support the official story. That's I often wonder why I come here, but there are a couple of people that I can relate to here.
Thanks, Lawrence. Okay, Mark Zarzano.
Hey, thanks for taking my point here.
I'm sorry it took so long.
Oh, that's all right. A lot of interesting comments, but I would like to also say that I normally don't like to get involved in the evidence issues. I think it's quite clear the evidence that we rely upon is, convincing. However, the one gentleman did make a very interesting point regarding the jet fuel, and I too have said the same thing. The Pentagon explosion, it's the symmetry, and we've heard that word relative to the buildings straight down, collapsing. Well, the symmetry of the explosion, if you remember, the explosion was a perfect pyramid, vertical explosion shaped in a pyramid shape, and it went directly straight up. That is not a type of explosion from a jet plane traveling hundreds of miles an hour with thousands of gallons of jet fuel. That's indicative of an ordnance. Clearly, it was not jet fuel in an airplane crashing into a building. You would have seen forward inertia of both the fire, the smoke, and the damage. What we witnessed was a hole almost at ground level. And surprisingly, lateral windows weren't broken, vertical above the hole weren't broken, windows weren't broken. We all know these facts to be true. This is not what would have happened if you had 7,000 gallons smacking into a building at 300 to 400 miles an hour. And the black smoke that he was making the point of, that the tanker, for 2 hours, that it was reported that black smoke burned and burned and burned.
Yep.
That did not happen at the Pentagon. It was exactly. So I yield at that. And I think, just in conclusion, we really need to focus on the Building 7. That is a universal smoking gun that everybody, when you present the facts and the evidence, they can't deny the irregularity, the suspicious nature of the incident. So I yield. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. I PM'd you. Please check your PM and get back to me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Ross?
You're welcome.
Thanks. Mike.
Okay, I'll start today by talking about the activism of over the last week, as I promised. So I'm here in Colorado right now, so we got a lot of snow in the last couple of days, which slowed me
We're
down.
in Colorado. Gene's in Colorado right now.
I know, I said that, I was surprised. I'm in Colorado Springs, next to
Okay.
NORAD, remember, and Fort Carson. So I wasn't able to get as many miles in on that electric bike as I planned, but I got 15 miles in, and basically what that translates to in traffic is, I'd say, around at least 100 people seeing the message on the bike. And the bike is a very kind of bright colored thing. There's not a lot of people on the roads. This is more of a vehicle, a automobile type society out here in Colorado Springs. The distance is involved, so you're kind of alone out there, and you get attention at the intersections and so forth. So it's not as good as New York, where you get the one-on-one personal contact. I haven't yet had the weather cooperate enough to stop at an intersection and have somebody roll their window down and talk to me. But I have a lot of people that have looked at the shirt in that time, and they, looking, and I'm saying, okay, this person's really looking. They're going to say something. And this is the thing about the activism. A lot of times people are looking, and, it's going to cut. I have a hard time reading which way it's going to cut, but usually it always cuts to a serious look on their face. And so you think, oh, they're going to be mad at me, or they're angry about that message, and they're mad at me. But it usually is because they do understand the seriousness of the issue, and they agree. They say, I agree with you. I like your shirt. That's 9 out of 10 people. And really, it's actually more than that. It's 99% of the people that actually comment are in agreement with you. So that's one thing to remember. It's important to remember, because when you get that one person that doesn't agree, those are the ones that you're looking for, actually. I think that we should take a lot more credit for what we have achieved as a truth movement. And I don't think you ever are going to get the vindication that we deserve in the mainstream media for what we've done. You're not going to get that, because basically, I believe 9/11 is a systemic guilt.
Yep.
It's not just the Bush family. It's not just the US government. It's really all of us. If you were going to characterize it in any way, it's the US dollar, okay? If you wanted to put a label on it.
Absolutely.
The money, it's the dollar. If you wanted to try and characterize it that way. Long story short, we've done a lot. And so now what I would ask of us in the truth movement is, going forward, what is it we want people to do? Is it that we want them to say, oh, we got to have another trial, or we got to have this grand jury go for it? I mean, do we have any specific, because I've been asked that question a lot when I was working with TAP a lot, when we had the petitions for the government, the petition for the new investigation. And a lot of people were very much on board, and they were like, just tell me what I got to do. Tell me what I got to do. And, at that point, we didn't really know, because we didn't have the lawyers committee saying there's going to be a grand jury. This was earlier on. I would like to know if we have any, I understand the evidence, people, but I have to say, I'm reminded in college there was a friend of mine that said this over and over again, and I got sick of it, and I didn't agree with it at the time that much, but he said, there are 3 types of people in the world. There are people that make things happen. There are the people that copy the people that make things happen. And then there are the people that try and figure out what happened. And unfortunately, I think we're really far too much skewed right now, at least in this group, and maybe in all the groups, into trying to figure out what happened. And I really would like more people to come about and say, what am I proactively going to do now? Okay, maybe it's not even about 9/11, but how am I going to change my lifestyle? Or how am I going to get somebody else to change their lifestyle? Or what is it I want to do proactively that other people will copy? So that's kind of where I'll get into more specifics next week about that. I got a nice project going for that. But now I'm going to say quickly about jet fuel. One experiment as an engineer, and before I go into that, I'm going to say we've got to all agree the buildings were taken down, not by gravity assist, but by demolition. Okay, all 3 buildings, the big buildings, 1, 2, and 7. All right, I think if we don't agree on that, you really have no place in this movement whatsoever. Then you are a troll, if you ask me. Anyway, moving on to jet fuel. As an engineer, I thought about that. I said, well, just how much jet fuel are we talking about relative to the volume of those buildings? Because they had an enormous volume, as you can imagine. So the way you can quantify that in a scale model is if you took a 1 foot long, 2-inch square aluminum tube, and then you wanted to say, okay, how much kerosene or jet fuel would I have to put on that or drop on that to get it to be like what the planes delivered that day? Turns out it's an eyedropper. And if you put 2 generous eye drops onto that 2-inch by 2-inch by 12-inch high aluminum tube, that's the amount of jet fuel in comparison to the volume of the building. Try and light that on fire. See how long that burns. It's not, and once it's out, put your finger on there. I'll even tempt you, test it out first before you really press it. See how hot that aluminum tube is with that amount of kerosene burning relative to that amount of aluminum, that volume. It's one way of looking at it that convinces me that, jet fuel really had nothing to do. I think last week, Adam mentioned, incendiaries. I hope he wasn't talking about the jet fuel. I hope he was talking about explosives, pre-planted explosives, but I'm not sure. Some people might say, well, the jet fuel was an incendiary. That's what I mean by when I'm saying that brought the building down. Well, that's where I go to when I try and describe to people, the jet fuel had really nothing to do with anything about buildings coming down. It was a theatrical prop, basically, really. So I guess I'll end on that and I'll let everybody else go.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. All right, if nobody wants to weigh in on that, then Morgan.
Okay, so the War Room has been established as the place for activism and not to figure out what happened. Though the War Room has made some small sort of filters as to, I believe, no planers and a few other things as they choose. But I would say that we keep arguing and fighting over what we think is a single microphone for the 9/11 Truth Movement, and there isn't one. There are big established things like AE, Richard Gage, and several other entities, but there isn't a single microphone for the Truth Movement, nor is there a process through which we have to take our information, evidence, and fact finding and opinion making and conclusion making to get to a single microphone. You know, constitutionally, the whole point behind free speech is to make dissent a thing that is supported. You know, the minority versus the tyranny of the majority. That's what our country, USA, is based on. You know, I say we beat, you know, obviously the mainstream media in our country and several other factors are making it so that misinformation is the new dissent, and misinformation can be canceled with wild, reckless abandon. I think the 9/11 Truth Movement should be bigger than that and has to be bigger than that in order to survive and keep cohesive. You know, 911truth.org, which you are all familiar with, their central quote on the opening page is "Think for yourself, explore the facts." So I think the 9/11 Truth Movement should be having an open town hall, free, open debate for everyone, no matter what they think, to be able to present at, which then we allow the viewers to make their choices on. That doesn't mean that their choices will end up in a single microphone that we all choose. There's no voting that anyone has established within this movement. Individual organizations, yes, not en masse. So I think giving a fair hearing to everyone in an open space where no organization is hosting or supporting a major belief will allow everyone in the movement to make their choices and follow their own activism routes. It'll also help the public come to 9/11 Truth and not feel pressured to pick this or that idea. You know, I mean, you know, basically giving a neutral sort of university academic way to let everyone say their thing and to have everyone else watching to make their own idea up. I think that's a great way to clean the movement, to get squabbles between this evidence or that evidence. You know, okay, you know, if we could come up with a big document that said, at least we could agree that these are the facts, you know, your opinion.
Hold on. You're talking about a document? Are you talking about a website? You're talking about a platform? You're talking about a discussion group?
I'm talking about more of an account, but really that's sort of straining and extending too far. I really do believe that unless we can allow every damn view up there, from no planes to Mickey Mouse did it, we don't have to do that. No organization, no person has to do that. But when we censor each other we really just promote infighting. And I think we should approach everything with an open sourced dialogue discussion, if you will,
Right,
to
but
allow
I mean,
people.
yeah, but it's hard because if you allow everything, you know, and there's degrees of things that we, you know, we agree on and we don't. And there's some things that almost everybody agrees on, whether it's, you know, 7 or controlled demolition or whatever. And there's other things that very few people agree on, you know, holograms or whatever. So do you want to give everything equal weight and present everything in the sake of fairness, or do you kind of want to, you know, still rein it in and focus
So
on,
I
on
would
the big
I would
line?
say as far as you know what we're talking about, I don't think it's valuable to try to censor each other.
I agree. In
We
principle,
don't,
yeah,
but we
absolutely.
don't have to create a you know a giant open space for anyone to say anything. However, we aren't a single movement, and you know the only thing we produce with trying to basically cancel each other, whether it's a good view or based on standards of academia or science or not. I really, you know, what are we fighting for? If we all, you know, came to the same agreement here on all the evidence, we'd have a single microphone.
Yeah, well, we'll
But
never have that agreement.
Exactly. So what I think is, you know, have an open dialogue or not, but we should understand that we are all sort of talking about some sort of consensus here. And
Yeah,
I think we should realize that we are all fighting our own single mission, and that may be a mission perhaps with several people or thousands or the majority of the movement, and we can follow it from there. But to fight over what is right or what is wrong is simply just against the basic way that truth is found in academia, in the Constitution.
I'm gonna stop you there because it's
I'm done.
6:30. There's a lot of people want to talk. And I think that in principle, everybody agrees with you. The problem is when it comes down to it, very few people know how to stick to it. So unless you can practice what you preach, and I don't mean you, Morgan, I mean you in general, you know, unless everybody's willing to do that. And we've been trying. I mean, you know, this is 9 months now, 8 months, we have the WarRoom going, and we keep trying to get away from that, and we keep getting sucked back in because that's where people are drawn. So
I support you. This is one of the most open-minded and open discussions towards activism. We should keep it there. Thank you.
yeah, no, I agree. I've got 4 hands up. It's 6:30.
Yes.
I have another call I need to go to at 7, and I don't want to do it at the last minute. So if we can just start slowly wrapping it up with any important points that still need to be made. Lawrence, go ahead.
I don't need to speak long. I just want to say that I'm interested in talking with anyone here that's interested in the issues related to jet fuel. I've become very well educated in the performance of jet fuel, especially in post-crash fires. And I totally agree with Ray as far as the endurance and I forget
Mike
who else.
Zarzano.
Yeah, about the persistence or the lacking of persistence of fire at the World Trade Center, and especially at the Pentagon. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. Ed?
Somebody mentioned earlier about how, you know, we know enough to, I can't remember how he phrased it. Please forgive me if I get it wrong. But basically somebody was implying that we know enough to be able to know what happened and what didn't happen. And as far as I was concerned, I sent an email out to everybody, I think on a chain a few days ago. It was a 557 pages from the National Archives of just the inventory from the that they have with respect to the 9/11 investigation. These are just an inventory of all the material they have pertaining to the information. It's 557 pages. I am not at all going to sit here and say that we even have a freaking clue as to what happened when you have that much data that has not been looked at. by anyone in this movement. Maybe a freaking micron of it has been looked at, but you know, unless I'm not going to sit there and pretend like we know what happened, didn't happen, when you have that kind of data that's still left out there in the open and nobody's looked at. So I think it's I just want to point that out. And that's one of the reasons why I put it out there, because it's a treasure trove of information that we have available to us. And if anybody wants to start using some FOIAs to start digging into that, that would be, I think, a wise thing to do.
And there's all the information that nobody has shared also, right? Like whatever
Mhm.
they have shared is just a fraction of everything there is to even know. So
Mhm.
I think we can't lose sight of the fact that, yeah, we just have really little bits and pieces of things to go on.
Mhm.
But we need to start with what we have, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, Susan?
Just wanted to concur with Morgan, and say furthermore that, we should be looking at disagreements or debates as a challenge, and, you know, to fine tune our own debates. Sometimes I know a lot of people are upset about disagreements in the 9/11 truth movement, but actually that keeps the 9/11 truth movement alive, and it keeps us a little more fine-tuned to how to deal with the public.
Yeah, it keeps our
Um,
feet to the
and-
fire too.
Yeah, and frankly, I'd love to see someone who believes the official story join the call and have an intelligent conversation with
If that's
them.
possible.
Yeah.
I'm
It
probably
would
the
be,
closest you'll get.
yeah, because yeah, we do need to fine tune how we talk to people who aren't in the truth, quote unquote, movement.
All right. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Susan. I agree 100%.
So do I.
Mhm. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh.
Al?
Over and out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, where do we draw the line with trolls? I mean, if we not to, you know, cast any aspersions on anybody, but I'd like to know if there's consensus in recognizing that somebody is deliberately trying to subvert this group or has ulterior motives. And I don't know if there's any agreement on that, but just as a way of pointing it out.
You won't get agreement from me,
Yeah,
Al. I
nor
think it's
me.
very dangerous to assume that someone's a troll just because they have a certain angle or aspect or something that they endorse. It's I can't say, I don't know. I don't know of anyone for sure that I would call a troll.
Nor
I'm
do
not
I.
convinced that anyone
I
is.
don't think we should be afraid of trolls, because if the forum is well moderated.
Yeah.
You know, if you give everybody their fair time and don't let any single person monopolize, then we shouldn't really even be afraid of so-called trolls.
No, and I agree. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's about what they say. It doesn't matter what their identity is, whether they're doing it deliberately to hijack anything or in all sincerity. At the end of the day, we have to deal with what they are putting out there, and does it stand and does it not stand, and is there any truth to it or not? And it's not because the source shouldn't matter. It's if there's a point that's brought up that's worth addressing, then it needs to be addressed for the sake of it and not disregarded because it came from so and so or whatever. So argument.
And again, I reiterate, it fine tunes our arguments.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree
yeah.
1,000% with what you and Susan just said. I you know, I say I always praise the openness and of debate, but each group, each person is free to go make their decisions and act as they will. And I think over time, those trolls only exist in the shadows. They can't exist in the light.
Yeah, well, and every once in a while a troll might have something important to say, so, you know.
And the nature of the whole topic and the contentiousness between everyone sometimes can, basically the movement, I think, trolls itself pretty well. Many
Right.
times.
Yeah, absolutely.
No need for trolls, really.
No, right, that's what I'm saying. Human nature is such that we do it to
Exactly.
ourselves.
I mean, everybody here is a troll. Everybody's
Basically.
In some ways. We'll call it the 9/11 troll room from here on. Ray, you got the last word. Well, not the last word. You're the last one with the hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to present something for me important and maybe for the movement to think about. I listen to the reactions, and I feel that there were people listening to what I wanted to, the point I wanted to bring across, because it's really about if you leave out jet fuel in 9/11 and consider it an explosive, then you get an official story. But if you really get into the science of how things work, it's like towers coming down because of controlled demolition.
Yeah.
It's really Lawrence, I want to just talk and then you can.
I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, but it distracts me.
Sorry, I'll mute myself so that when I say
that's better,
yes,
that's
you're
better,
right,
that's
you
better.
won't hear it.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Ray, because that explains.
Okay, but it's such an important thing to understand that science is there to steer us on the path of truth, because science is the thing that is defined by laws of nature, and there is no turning of that. It's defined, and jet fuel is a flammable liquid. It's a science of law. And we were believed that the explosions that took place on that day were jet fuel, only jet fuel. And that's a lie. That's the lie. That's the biggest lie they made. And if you listen to the plane crashes, if you listen to the videos that were made of these crashes, you can hear this explosions so massive that they were 10 miles away. People heard them 10 miles away. It's that powerful these explosions were, and they were sold to us that it were only jets that did these explosions, and that's untrue. And that's where I wanted to, that's my focus, because I think that's the biggest lie the government made, is to make us believe it were only jets that brought the towers down, it were only jets that crashed into the Pentagon, it was only a jet that made it into the field. It's very, very much a lie.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's the first time that you put it so succinctly.
I can unmute myself now because I was so busy agreeing with almost everything you had to say.
All right, guys. Is there anyone else who would like to say something quickly before we wrap it up?
Good luck and Godspeed to those presenting at the NFPA.
Yeah, I think we have another, it's on June the 6th, right? So we have another what? Another couple of calls, at least one call before
June
that.
6th through 8th, 6th through the
In
8th.
getting ready for it.
So next Sunday is the 29th, and then we have another Sunday, the 5th. So we have 2 more calls before the convention. And I guess we'll hear more about how it's being fine-tuned and what the action plan is, and if there's anything we can do. You know, once Richard and Eric and Raul decide if they would like the involvement from the outside, then we'll share that with you, and hopefully we can all help make something happen.
Oh, real quick, I sent some free videos refuting some of Barbara Honegger's work, and I know I sent it all out to everybody. But I just, if anybody wants to chime in on that, I haven't got a single feedback from anybody on that. So if anyone wants to chime in and tell me your thoughts, that'd be great appreciated.
All right, Ed. You sent that to everybody on the WarRoom
I
list?
I I sent it to everybody in that email chain that was going around, and
Okay.
yeah, there's some sort of major problems she
Well,
made.
there
on her
were a lot
website.
of emails, so you got to forgive
Yeah.
people if they A, tuned out, and B, maybe missed it. So
Yeah, it'll be from me, just like from me. You'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah, just if you find it, great. If not, it's fine too.
yeah, all right.
I'm gonna be
And if
making more.
anybody's looking for it, just email Ed.
Okay, thank you guys.
Ed,
All
I
right.
thought that chain was toxic in many places, and I
Mhm.
avoided commenting on anything because I didn't want to go down that road.
I
Yeah.
actually think I tried to make new chains, actually, just using the same list of people. So it may have had appearance of, I don't know, but
With a
the
different
heading should
subject
be
line.
different too. Different
Or a
subject
different
lines. too.
subject.
Yeah, it got very hard to follow and keep track of, and I think honestly, I think most people just tuned out.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
something about
on
this.
that chain and I don't want to be. I've
I
heard
would
enough
never
about it.
do that to you. I would never do that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there was
don't
something
put
about
me
this.
on that chain. I don't
All right,
want a whole
don't
bunch
worry.
of negativity.
It was
I
it was
got your
dealt with the
back.
smell. It's been dealt with the smell of cordite. I was also dealing with the response, the claim of explosions prior to the impact of a plane, and emergency response times. And then there was another one that dealt with just a complete fabrication or taking out of context of someone's testimony.
Okay.
If you want
In
to
the same
email,
story.
if you want to email me that directly, I would take a look at it.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
All right.
All right,
Okay,
bye.
guys. Have a good rest of the Sunday. Have a good week. And we'll see each other, yeah, next Sunday. To be continued.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Gene.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Go away. Leave.
So